Somehow, my daughters fell in love with Formula One. I don't know how or why, but I'm not arguing. They may not know wheel, but does anyone?
Hi, and welcome to
Hi.
We Don't Know, We All Fun. I'm Anne.
And I'm Grace. We're two sisters who fell in love with Formula One, and now we force all our friends to come on our podcast and talk about F1. Joining us today.
I'm Shelly. And I'm Jamie.
I feel like Anne and I haven't been on together in so long that when
So
she
long.
said the first words, I was like, that's my line. I don't know what you're doing.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, welcome.
It has been a real minute.
No, I honestly don't think I've been on since before summer break.
I know it's been so
I
long
know.
since we've had you,
James.
Jamie.
You've
I know,
been
I'm excited to be
away.
back.
And you have been your involvement in the group chat I find quite fascinating because you'll just like duck in every once in a while.
I know, I'm like, hey. And then like a month later, funny. Love that. I know. I honestly didn't watch a few I'm still like behind on a couple races. There's probably like two from summer
You
that I
gotta
didn't
start
watch.
watching like the race in 10 like our parents watch.
Oh my gosh.
Or
I
the
know
race in
actually.
30.
Yeah, race in 30. Although I feel like this season has been such a fun season. I'm bummed that I was off the grid, if you will, for a little while.
I
She's
will
been
say,
off grid.
I've been off grid, but I'm back.
I feel like what F1 TV really needs to make is a quali in 30.
That seems
Does that not
logical.
exist?
Yeah, I thought that was a thing.
I don't think it does.
I actually think it
There's-
does. I've watched quali in 10.
Well, yeah, there's the highlights, but
No,
if you want
there's a
more than
quali
the
in
highlights,
10.
your only other option is the whole thing.
I think
Okay.
Anne is right.
And I
Yeah.
want something in the middle.
Honestly, here's what I wish F1 TV was doing, and judge me, but why do they not have it so I can watch it sped up when I'm watching the recording? I'm like, please let me watch this on 2
Yes.
times speed.
Yeah.
There's only so much DC I need to listen to. I
Mhm.
need him sped up a little bit.
I know. I
Also,
really
okay.
live for the Ruth moments.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We got some good ones this race.
Ruth again and continues to be the most informative person. Julian Palmer
Always.
continues to have an opinion that seems to be just based in vibes. Did
DC
everyone
continues to tell stories about the 80s.
I
Okay,
know.
and I'm like,
the
I'm not gonna hate him
throwbacks.
for it. At least he's bringing something interesting. Julian Palmer is literally just like, the race could end like this, and then they'd be in this order. And you're like, well, I could say that, and I know nothing. Like, thank you so much for the insight. And then James Hinchcliffe was in Singapore, and he wasn't even like, I wanted him on the broadcast. I know he was there like he was in the after show and stuff, but I was like, I actually find his commentary, this is just me being a hater today. I told you I was in a bad mood. I find his commentating so much more insightful than Julian Palmer's. I don't know why I'm on a tear against him, but I'm not pleased with him right now.
I feel like I just don't
He was
notice
also
anything.
very pro Carlos this week, and I was still like, get out of here.
I feel like I don't notice Julian Palmer saying or
Because he has
doing much
nothing
in terms
useful
of like
to say.
things he's saying don't really like stick with me the same way that like the weird stuff that comes out of DC's mouth.
Yeah.
DC always has some really random hot takes.
Yes.
Wait, what were some? There was a funny one. I feel like there was a
He
couple
likes
this
to like
week.
get into the mind of a driver, the
Mhm.
mind of a team.
Mhm.
I do honestly, I'll be the voice of Sarah today and say I do love when he tells a story from the 80s.
Do you?
Yeah.
What was the
Yeah.
Sarah rant that she was speaking of? There was a rant she said she had for us.
I thought she sent it to the chat. Did she
Kind of.
not?
I don't
If
think
you
want to
so.
read it, I think she did.
Yeah, she
wanna
sent
read
it
it.
to the chat. Let's see if we can find it. Is it before or after the Photoshop photos of me?
Oh, it was about the
Carlos?
Max censorship. Speaking of getting
Yes.
in the mind of a driver.
I love getting into the mind of a driver.
So basically, okay, I feel like I haven't been as much into my deep dive in my Formula One fandom in the last few months. So correct me if I'm wrong, but basically the FIA said you can't swear now. Like,
They used to have a rule that you couldn't swear at people, which I think is
okay,
a fair rule to have.
yeah,
But then they were like, no, it's not explicitly swearing. It's like you cannot use, I don't know, they say something about language in a specific way, like coarse
okay.
language, but that's not the wording they used.
And is it only in interviews or like what about over like the radio? Like
It's
what?
both.
So Yuki can't drop
Yuki, that's
F-bombs.
why people were like, Yuki's in trouble. And then,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Sarah says, I have an entire rant prepared regarding Max's little censorship issue. And I'm just going to read what she wrote because she's not here and she can tell us if we're wrong. I have a guess about this. In my opinion, the fan response to this rule from the FIA compared to previous rules regarding protesting and the whole Christian Horner situation is shockingly different. They're turning Max into some kind of martyr. And I think she's right, and she should say it louder.
Is yeah, okay. Should we get into it?
Yeah. Because like people are acting like, I mean, on the one hand, I don't want to I'm like enjoying Max's protest. And I think it's fair for them to be like, I don't think we need to be censored in this way. You can censor us on the broadcast, but we should be allowed to say what we need to say, especially when it's not explicitly hurting someone, right? It's one thing to censor, like to say it's not appropriate to use harsh language against a person. But it's another thing to say, oh, it's not appropriate to say these specific things, even if it's just into the ether or about an inanimate object.
What did I think? Okay, this is what I missed. I'm like, what did Max say that put him on
He
the?
said the car was effed.
And he said that over the radio to his.
No, he said it in an interview.
In the press conference
Oh,
at the beginning of the week with
got it.
what's his name? The guy who also does the like interview
yeah.
podcast.
Tom. That's
Tom Clarkson. Yes.
Let's get old Tom.
I think Sarah's point. I feel like part of it is simply that the way that it's happening and the way that Max is handling it is, from an outside perspective, very just like entertaining to watch. And so I think that's part of the reaction. But I do think she has a point of like it's being treated very differently by fans.
Yeah, and it's like when the FIA said that drivers cannot make political statements, people were like, ugh, Hamilton's being whiny and like everyone's being like, it doesn't matter. Why do I care what? But I think they actually get exactly at the same spirit of the thing. And it's really giving like, actually, I'm not going to say that, but it's getting at the same spirit of the thing. It's just like, first they censored us in this specific way. And I thought that doesn't apply to me because I'm not political. And then they censored my ability to just speak language. And I was like, how could you? And it's like, they're both important. And arguably, the one where you were censored from saying your personal beliefs is more important.
Interesting. Okay. So how are fans reacting?
They're acting like Max is like amazing for protesting. They think it's really funny. They're like, it's so great that he's doing this. They love it.
They think that the rule from the FIA is just ridiculous. So, I mean, I agree that the way the FIA is treating this rule is ridiculous. But I think Sarah has a very valid point about it being perceived differently by the fans compared to earlier instances.
Yeah, I think there's this instance of these F1 drivers are role models. And secondarily, like if you've seen on the F1 TV app, there's a kids version of the drive now. And so I think they're like trying to push those elements, but I think in a lot of the same ways drivers have protested in the past, like Lewis and his jewelry. Max has definitely made it very entertaining this past weekend with giving one-word answers, after the races. And then on top of that, being like, if you want to talk to me, meet me outside. So I think in that way it feels really entertaining. And I think fans like that because I think there's been a lot of hot topics coming from FIA, like, how they are.
Well, and it's, I mean, whatever. The FIA can do whatever they want with the sport. Ultimately, I guess they're in charge. But it's like, it is a little wild in the context of like, people die in this sport. So like, how kid friendly is that?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I also think that it's kind of ridiculous to hold them to the standard when they're in the middle of racing a car at 200 miles an hour. And I mean, other professional athletes are not mic'd up all the time and then told to not swear when you're mic'd up
Yeah.
the entire
And I
time.
think
Yeah.
I don't know if I sent it in any of the chats, but I feel like I saw something where they were basically like, the FIA is not okay with people swearing, but they're fine with hosting races in countries that have human rights violations. And it's
Mhm.
like,
Yep.
I mean, it's a little rich, it's a little silly.
Yep.
Ultimately, the whole thing is a big old money grab. I showed up because I wanted to watch rich boys be inappropriate. And now I'm having that taken away from me. No.
Yeah.
And it's
Okay.
also
Okay.
like, it's not like they don't have the ability to censor stuff.
Yeah. It's broadcasted.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
It's
ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think Mac should have organized a protest by having all of the drivers swear in every single radio message.
Well, also it does bring up an interesting point. I mean, along what Sarah was saying, like they could have supported Lewis in saying why they thought that
Yeah.
that censorship was not appropriate, but
Mm,
he
Mhm.
didn't. And now he's upset because it's his language. And it's
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
obviously connected. Maybe you guys
Mhm.
should have supported each other.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yep.
One of the many entertaining plots of F1 this season. Seriously, it's
Yeah.
been every race has been crazy.
I am so confused by all of the media posts about Daniel Ricciardo's last race. Has it been confirmed?
No.
No, isn't that part so
Everyone's
crazy?
That I
posting
feel like is
it.
honestly the worst part because they're like denying him the ability to have an actual goodbye with the fans and to have a public
Yeah.
goodbye with the team.
Yeah. I'm so confused. So as of right now, he's racing in that next race as far as we actually know.
Yep.
Well, we don't know. There is a
There's been nothing
conflict.
said that he's
Well,
not
and-
going to race.
Yeah,
in the
you
next
would
That's
say
why
race.
that
I'm
for
so
any
confused.
driver.
Yeah.
I think we can't say he's safe or he's not safe. I think there's a lot of like leadership issues happening at Red Bull right now about who gets what say. And I think it's
Yeah.
interesting that their title, Visa Cash App, the title sponsor, is saying we want Daniel to race. So that's just like a very interesting, thing in the
Well,
pot where it's like,
and
what is happening with Daniel?
you would think
Mhm.
the title sponsor would have some insight
Leeway.
into.
Or yeah.
Yeah, like you would think they would
Mhm.
know if there was a contract in place that said by this race, if Danny isn't whatever, then he's out. So that feels far-fetched to me. I think it all comes from Ralph Schumacher, which I want to be like, who is believing Ralph Schumacher?
I think it's more than Ralph, honestly. I think the
At
way
this
that
point, based off of
Danny,
the way that Danny was acting,
it's more
But
than
I
Ralph.
it's
feel like
way more than Ralph.
I saw someone
Interesting.
talking about that and they were like, but I wonder if this is a study in like how rumors can get away from us.
Mm.
So it's like Ralph starts a rumor that someone who's more credible is like I remember there was someone I saw who posted about it and I was like, whoa, this is
Yeah.
like a legitimate source. And then they cited Ralph Schumacher and I thought that seems crazy. But then enough people like repost and talk about that. And then like the only thing I'm seeing cited as the source is Ralph Schumacher. But
See,
all of these legitimate sources are saying like this is happening, this might be happening. And it's like,
Yeah.
did this all
I
happen
thought
because
Danny had made a
one
statement
man?
saying that like things were going to be evaluated after Singapore, before Austin.
The only thing
During the
I
break.
heard in the next interview was, or I just heard it in an interview, and he was like, he basically said, like, as of right now, I'm racing. Like, that's the last thing I heard from him, but I also haven't been as active
But then
as
you
I have
think
been.
if he's heard all these rumors saying like this is his last race, and then he's like,
I
wait,
think-
it's my last race?
The
I think
way-
it was that last lap where I think they came on the radio and they said, let's do these things. It could be your last lap. And I think that really switched things for Daniel, being like, okay, like I want
I-
to say goodbye to people, like I think that really kickstarted everything.
I think he knows that there's some big meeting happening soon, and there's some clause in his contract that lets Red Bull make this switch.
I
Gosh,
also
if that's
though,
true and he's in the dark, that's so messed up. I think.
I also think
I-
it's like
I think he
Danny
knows.
Rick is a huge quantity in the US. Everyone knows that. It seems
Mhm.
really crazy to me that they're taking him out before Austin, but they wouldn't
Mm.
take Checo out before Mexico. Like
Well,
Yeah.
there was a clause of Liam's. There's an expiration
that's
date on
yeah, but I'm
Liam
like,
for August or October 1st. Is from what I saw, and with
who told you
Daniel,
that, Ralph? No.
with Daniel, there was already talk about he's not interested in being a reserve driver. So it
Mhm.
puts these difficult pieces together, right? Where Daniel is wanting a certain thing and not going to settle. And so it's putting the teams into tough positions and being like,
Mm.
who are we going to really kick out? Can we make this happen? And I don't think it is going to happen, truthfully.
I think
And that's
Danny's going to
sad.
Red Bull.
You think so? Oh, he's
What
just
if
been
that
having.
legit is the like surprise move?
Oh my gosh, that would be absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
I don't think, I think
Also,
he's done.
I think he's done.
know.
And I
It
think he
makes-
knows he's done. I don't think it can
Yeah.
legally be public knowledge yet, but I think he knows he's done.
It makes me so sad. I'm really bummed. I'm bummed to see like it just feels like after he left Red Bull, things just kind of changed in his driving career. And then it just hasn't really like
Yeah.
worked at Red. Like I feel like he's had a few standout races at Visa Cash App, but
My friend
it
Visa Cash App.
stinks. At Visa Cash App. I mean, at least he has obviously really made a name for himself. So I guess in that regard, he's gonna be fine. But like, I just am so sad for like how his career, I don't know,
Yeah.
changed.
I'm
Mhm.
haunted by the first season of Drive to Survive. It haunts me. If you remember that first
agree.
episode is Daniel. They're showcasing Daniel. He's the first face you see.
Yes.
And they're showing his journey at Red Bull and that transition to Renault. And it's horrific. I just cannot even bring myself to like
Yeah.
watch that journey and being like, don't do this. Stay. But it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And we are where we are now. It's very sad.
I know.
I think something is really actually happening because of the way that Danny is acting. And I think he's been in this world so long and been through so many crazy things that
Mhm.
he knows how to know when something is just a rumor and how to brush off stuff that is just a rumor.
And when
I know,
it's
but-
real,
I'm not going to
Very
fully
s-
discount what you're saying. I think you're right. I can't help it. I'm so mad. I hate this haircut. It's not even a haircut. It's longer than it was before.
That's what it feels like.
Grace got a reverse haircut today.
I did. Here's my only like yes, I agree, but then I will just add there's so many cases where drivers are like, yeah, I actually didn't find out until actually they just were publishing something from Julian Palmer, my BFF, about how he didn't find out that he had been let go from the Renault seat
yeah.
until like it was published.
Mm.
And I feel like
Yeah.
there's a lot of
I was
times where
listening
stuff
to that
like that.
episode of
Yeah.
Beyond the Grid today or yesterday.
But I
Yeah.
think I think there is a significance with Daniel Ricciardo compared to Julian Palmer. That's what I will
That's
say.
what we all think, but I think there's
It does
plenty of
happen.
times.
But I think
Yeah.
in this realm, the fans, I don't know. I think the fans and the sponsors hopefully will be enough to either bring him back later. You know, maybe that
Who
happens.
what?
If you could pull a Gunther and interview every once in a while.
Next season. I don't know. Things could
Honestly,
change.
I mean,
but-
I think
Get
he has
rid
a
of
great
Julian
career
and
in
get
media if
Danny
he wants
in.
it. I
You'll
think-
be an ambassador.
No. But okay, I feel like there's two possibilities in my mind of what was going on during the weekend, which is either he knew that he was done after the race, but he legally, contractually was not allowed to say anything,
Ugh, which would stink.
or he
He did
knew
not
that a
know.
decision was going to be made after the weekend and that he had not been hitting the like required benchmarks in order to stay and not be replaced. And so
I-
like he knew it was coming. I feel like it felt like one of those two things was happening.
I saw something online. I need to check my sources, but I believe there was this thing where on his radio at the end, they apparently said, in Danny's radio, his onboard, said, "Was this enough?" And then the response was, "No, it wasn't enough, Danny," or something. I need to check. I don't want to put like fake news out there, but I mean, we know how the sport
Insane. Why would
goes.
they do
Oh
that?
my gosh.
I just got goosebumps.
No, you guys, there's no way.
have to
Why would
check.
they do that? Literally, everyone has open access to the radios. They can speak in places not on the radio. Why would that be the way they inform someone that they have met their performance goals? Through the radio? Was that enough? Yes or no?
And Danny
Let's
would
check.
know.
Let's check. I mean, Danny maybe knows, but he really wants to know still because I think he's pulling for Christian to really save his butt, but Christian is struggling. So it's sad.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
What, besides what Max said, what are the people saying about Red Bull's car?
It's bad. I don't know.
Like, why all of a sudden?
They're saying that Checo always knew and that Red Bull had been brushing it
Yeah.
under the rug. And all of the issues that Checo's had and the reason why he hasn't kept up with Max is actually because of the car issues.
Really?
And it all started with the floor in Barcelona and a change that they made. I'm
For
just
the-
telling you what they're saying.
Wait, a
I
change they
think
made for the worse?
Yeah. And then it
And
all
it-
went downhill developmentally from there.
Well, and it all started after Adrian Newey stopped being involved in the day-to-day operations
That's
of
what I was wondering. I was like, are people talking about
Mhm.
that?
There
It's
is
literally,
correlation.
like
where-
it starts the weekend that Adrian Newey stopped coming trackside and working with the Formula One team.
You know where Adrian
Wow.
Newey is going.
To the lime green one. I'm blanking on what it's called.
Not lime green, not steak.
Not
Aston
steak.
Martin. He's going to Aston Martin
Of course he is.
with
Got
Lance
paid
Stroll.
big.
Got some deep
He's got
pockets.
Yeah.
some Stroll money coming towards him.
All I can hope is that Lance is going to retire and that Carlos will take his seat.
The Spaniards, they ride together. Oh my gosh. But I will say after the Williams, I'm like so out of it. What's the guy?
Franco?
I was like, after that, I was like, okay, maybe there's hope for Carlos after all.
Yeah, Franco has
Oh,
been
no, I-
amazing, I think.
He has.
Yeah.
So impressive. And I have good hopes for Williams for the next 5 years. I think James Fowles is putting them slowly but surely
Back
onto
on
the
the
right
map.
track. And I'm
What
very
a-
excited for Alex and Carlos.
What do you think
Oh,
about
great
the
pair.
podcast that just came out with Claire, where she was like, if we could have just stayed in it for one more year, you just don't feel good when you're not paying your drivers.
I
don't
only
like
saw the
my-
part where she was talking about how they weren't paying their drivers. I didn't see the
Uh-oh.
rest of
She
it.
had a whole
I've
spiel
not
where
seen
she was
this.
basically like, I just think we were 1 year away from there being serious money in F1. And if our family could have held out, we could still own an F1 team. And I feel like there were a lot of people being like, yeah, totally. And then there were also people being like,
Mm.
okay. And then she
I
goes
don't
on to
think it
say that
was
she
just
was
about the money.
she goes on to say that they were not paying their drivers because they were getting pay drivers.
Oh my gosh.
And then
Wait, what
everyone talks
podcast
about
is
Lance
this on?
Stroll.
Oh,
Not ours.
And well, and I would guess that George, when he was at Williams, was being paid by Mercedes.
Yeah.
oh my. Did
Which
it?
makes
Okay.
sense. Like in the
Yeah.
sense
Right,
that
and that's
Mercedes
not
says saying like, we
uncommon,
want
I
you to
don't
take
think.
this junior driver to develop him to come to Mercedes. I think the
Yeah.
more uncommon thing is the driver going straight into Mercedes.
Yeah.
I know, Kimi Antonelli, watch out world.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be the next
I'm
world
watching
champ.
out for Franco Colapinto. I'm
Mhm.
in. I'm sold.
You know what? Okay, let
Do you
I
think
say
he's gonna get that second Sauber seat?
I hope so.
Rumor says Bottas is getting it for 1 year, and we'll see where Franco goes, but it hasn't been officially announced.
I do feel like the rumors about that second Sauber seat change on a daily basis.
They
That's
do.
fun.
They do.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah, Franco this weekend It was wild. I mean, I've seen occasionally Alex be kind of like hot on the mic during like crazy things, but yeah, hearing him being like, Franco just died in front of me. It was very, I don't know. People are saying it's been interesting seeing that Franco is closely matching Alex, and you know,
Mhm.
Alex is the seasoned one. So it was such a bummer when he was out of the race. And I just put Alex on my team too on my
Stop.
I had Alex
my
too.
fantasy. So I was like, you did so well last weekend. What
Okay.
happened?
I had Alex,
But
and I
my
had
dad
also
said that
switched.
you're in second, Shelly.
I'm in
She is.
second, only by 1 point. And
There's like
that's
4
because
points
Alex.
separating me, Dad, and Shelly. Or is Dad in first
Ooh.
and John Fraley's in the midst of us?
You're
I'm
probably
looking it
fourth,
up.
Anne.
I know I'm fourth.
Yeah. So, but it was a good, like, that was the only sort of like crazy part in the first turn, I guess, off the start of the race was Franco Colapinto. And I think he's made a really good name for himself. So I think a lot of people would be interested in getting him.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
he's a yapper, and the girls love a yapper. So
Loves
Was yeah. Wait, was he yapping over his like car radio?
he's all over
He
social
yaps
media,
with the
Jamie.
boys.
He's
Oh.
He has no
everywhere.
media manager. It's incredible.
Oh,
Social media,
we
interviews.
miss those days.
Yeah, everywhere. He's unfiltered. So we're living for it.
Okay.
Here's the fantasy rankings. Dad's in first, Shelly's in second, John's in third, Anne's in fourth, Shelly's in fifth, Sarah's in sixth, Jamie's in seventh, I'm in eighth. Then
I'm
Jamie's
gonna,
in ninth, then Mom's in 10th.
I'm gonna be so honest. I kind of did a set it and forget it type situation.
Oh, we've all been. And just so you know, if you set it and forgot it with Logan on your thing, you're losing
He's still on there
points.
dragging points down.
Yeah.
Literally
And they
losing
actually are
points for you.
actively taking points away if you left Logan on your team. So
Do
that's
I
your
have
Go in
warning.
and
Logan on
change
my
him.
team? I don't think so, but
I had him on a
That's
bunch of mine because that was the only person I could afford.
that's hysterical.
And then I took him off and was like, I'll just put Colapinto in, and I couldn't afford Colapinto
Oh.
because he was worth more.
Oh my, that's
That's brutal. That's
Oh,
very brutal.
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 Oh
I
my
need to add Lance
gosh.
so I can add a little money to my team.
Do you think that okay, so let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that was Danny's last race. Do you think he would make an appearance in Austin?
100%.
And could
I don't think so.
Oh,
I think it's too painful.
I think he's
He's
hides away for 2
contractually
months.
obligated to.
I don't know.
Who would he be contractually obligated by?
Sponsors.
You may be right, but it'll be brutal if he's not
I feel like
driving.
If he loses
Yeah.
that seat, his like sponsor contracts are voided.
If he wrote it that way,
What
then
I saw
hopefully.
someone on social media saying the reason why they have not announced it is because there is an ongoing social media, like an ongoing advertising campaign that he is a part of that has not been completed. And the advertisers had been
Oh,
told he would be a driver during the campaign.
I think that's yeah,
whoa.
So rough.
Gosh, it's so layered.
money.
Money.
And I did text Sarah though. I said this is brutal right before Austin that
Mhm.
they're doing this to
Yeah.
him. Like that's his race.
It's his
So
home race.
Like at least McLaren waited till the end. No.
I was going to ask because Liam, if it is Liam, he's
Yeah.
another Aussie driver coming in, and that reminded me of how
No, he's
Oscar.
not.
He's a New Zealander.
Baby.
Okay, whatever. My
That's
bad.
offensive.
My bad. Don't come for me. Don't come for me. All I was
If we ever
thinking,
interview Liam
Liam,
Lawson,
he's
we are
gonna
showing
know.
him this clip, Shelly.
Hi,
Let's get him
Liam.
on the pod.
Get him on the pod.
We'll issue an apology.
I was wondering if the last go around was just as brutal. Do you guys remember with
It was
fans
brutal in
and
a different way.
okay.
His results with McLaren were
was-
worse.
Yeah.
And that was really brutal, but there was never a point where you felt like he was going to be replaced mid-season.
Mhm.
It was more just like the slow
You're just
waiting
watching him.
and
Yeah.
watching and just like waiting to see if
Decline.
they were going to cancel the last year of his contract.
Jamie, your face, you are hurting. I
I-
just see it.
What is it called when you like you see someone else doing, it's not embarrassing, but it's like you feel like pain, like it's like
Like
secondhand.
secondhand.
Yes. Gosh. And I think that I saw a clip of another girly run F1 podcast, and one of the girls was like in tears over the fact that Danny hopefully wouldn't be racing. Did you see that? Or not hopefully?
I saw it.
Shelly
Hopefully
said
would.
I cried.
I saw it and I did. For a second, if I thought about it, I'm going to say this on the pod. He was the first face that I saw. So then I'm like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sad about this. Like, he's maybe not my number one now, but like, he was the first face that I saw of F1. And to
Mhm.
see, I'm going to say the disrespect of like this past weekend of him like having to say, going to say goodbye to people or whatnot, staying at the paddock, being the last driver there. I'm like, this is like terrible of Red Bull. Like
Mhm.
just keeping him in the dark or whatever is going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hate them for this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold this one against them. So yeah, it
Yep.
was hard and I understand. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of sad about it and I am kind of crying about it on the inside. So
Mhm.
I
I can only
Yeah.
imagine.
feel like it sucks, and I feel like Red Bull is handling it very poorly. Though, I mean, there always could be circumstances outside of their control that we don't know about. But I also feel like, as much as it sucks, it's all happened to other drivers at the same time. Like Nick DeVries was unceremoniously just dumped, and yes, Danny is Danny, and he's very loved right now. But I don't know. I think it's equally as unfair to those other drivers as well.
Sure. I just didn't have the connection with them,
Yeah.
We weren't buddies. I get emails from Danny, from Enchante. Like I get personal emails from Danny Ricciardo.
You
It's
get
not the
texts from
same.
No.
Yeah. We're pals. He was there. Hey, you're wearing his merch. I don't know.
I
It's
think
just
he is one of the most
I'm
beloved
actually wearing his
drivers.
merch right now.
See? I think he is definitely one of the most beloved drivers, and it's just rough to see that treatment.
Yeah,
But
you're right though. It is equally as rough for others, but I just feel a kinship. He was born the same year I was born. Like we could be
Go off.
friends. Anyway, that's that. I was thinking about the race and was like, you know what? It has been a fun season to watch. I've been really enjoying not knowing who's going to win. It made me kind of laugh now thinking back to our fantasy teams, and we put Max as a off limits, and I was like, well, are we saying maybe Max could be back on limits? What are we thinking? No. Because it's not like he's making more points than the rest of them these days.
Right. I feel like Max is and Red Bull is a very bad financial decision in fantasy right now because
Which I-
they're
Probably
still
true.
very expensive, but they're not getting the same haul of points that they used to.
Yeah, and I didn't expect that we were going to be able to say that,
Mm,
to be honest.
I know.
Looking back at the beginning of the season, it's kind of like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this because they started off so strong.
Mhm.
It makes me very excited for next year because it's gonna be starting from scratch with
Okay.
cars that are like very close.
Let me ask you this. So I feel like I've been seeing some people on social media basically implying that everyone now hates Lando. And I've even seen
Oh.
people being like, walking into this, like I'm walking into what was the big title race between Max and Lewis, 21?
21.
Mm.
And I wasn't ready. I'm not ready for a 21 type season where it's gonna go down to the wire. And I'm like, I actually don't think people hate Lando.
I feel like I see a lot of hate towards him online, but and
Whoa.
it's not hate towards
Whoa.
like
Who are
him
you
as a
hanging out with?
person. It's more like saying that he should be way further ahead in the championship than he is with the like quality of the car that he has.
I think, is it
Fair.
hate to like make a joke about how he is in the fastest car, but not currently winning the championship? Or is it
They're
just
not
like
really
making a
being
joke?
praised like jokes.
Okay, maybe we're seeing different content.
Mm-hmm.
Bring more context to it, Anne. Because I guess the
don't know.
content I'm seeing is just people being like, when you've been saying that if you had the fastest car, you would win the world championship, and then you
Yeah,
finally
I'm
get the
seeing
fast.
that.
And I'm like, I don't feel like that's hate.
I don't know if I would say hate, but I think it's like
They're not seeing the Lando dominance, right? That we've seen with Max. We know that
Mhm.
he's had to work for it, but like we've seen Max in his dominance, we've seen Lewis in his dominance,
Mhm.
and that has yet to be, I think, understood by Lando. And I think even the way that I don't know about the other drivers, but Lando is you've seen his interviews. He is a sad boy. And that people take that and run with it whenever he's talking down about
Yeah.
himself, and they
Mhm.
They're
throw it right
like,
back
see,
at
this
him.
is why he doesn't have a championship mentality.
That's me. She's saying that's me because I think Oscar has it all.
Oscar has a championship mentality
He does.
for Shelley.
But
so
yeah.
I
Go
feel like what
ahead.
I've been seeing has been like very deep, genuine. Annoyance is a pretty good word. Of just saying like falls into multiple categories. Some is like Lando shouldn't be considered amongst the best drivers if he has this insanely good car and he is
I feel like it's a
not
little early to even
actually
talk about who's
challenging
the
in
best
championship
driver.
fight. Well, like
Shouldn't we have that
best drivers
conversation
in
like
terms of the
after
current grid.
their careers are done?
Best drivers in terms of their current grid currently.
Why do we need to make that prediction? Why is that?
Why
I
do we
will
need to have
say-
a dominant driver? I'm liking not having a dominant driver.
What if we stopped having like, what if we stopped timing it and we just said, which car looks the prettiest?
I think something that sets Lando apart is that I know Max streams, but so does Lando. And I think
Lando has his own
yes, in those
esports
streams,
conglomerate.
he's been kind of whiny. Because people have been complaining about the tires, and he's like, nothing's wrong with the tires. And I don't know, I think he's given a lot of access and saying kind of these immature comments that people are like, you are a little boy. Like you are supposed to be our champion. Get it together. And I think especially this past weekend, he was sort of making a dig at the Mercedes team and saying how George and Lewis didn't come for the interviews because they were feeling really ill from the race, and how he's like, everyone was feeling ill. Why they should have been there still. So I think there's just a lot of that like whininess where people are interpreting like, okay, he's just complaining, and he has the fastest car, but he's still struggling.
I think
and
he just likes to
sometimes-
whinge. I think that's legitimately his thing.
I think that is his thing, and that's the whole point where
Like,
people
go
are-
back and watch early McLaren videos. It's just him whining to Carlos the whole time.
And then Carlos making fun of him, so it comes off very charming.
That's the
Yes.
difference between generations, I will say. He's very
Which I
much
feel
Gen
like
Z.
Any driver that
Mhm.
starts to compete for a driver's championship or like become a dominant force, it's almost like a politician when they
people-
jump
yep.
up into like the higher realms of running for office. You come under way more intense scrutiny than you ever had before. And everybody, like, there's going to be something about everyone.
But also,
that
like,
people
all the world champions
decide
are
they're gonna
big
latch onto.
whingers. They all like to whinge.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
Max can whinge with the best of them.
Yeah.
He's literally the biggest whiner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I
can
feel like-
Lewis.
yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like
Yeah.
Lewis whines every
And
race.
you know who's the biggest whiner of them all? Fernando Alonso.
That should really be our determining factor for who the actual GOAT driver is. Who's the whiniest?
Who is the whiniest?
I think
There we go.
that okay, this is another Drive to Survive throwback. When I started watching Drive to Survive, I did not like Sebastian Vettel, and then I felt like he got kind of worse. Like then he switched
He
over.
became a worse driver.
Yes, and then he became a worse driver, and then really likable. So it's like I don't know. I just think Lando needs to like
That's
be in
toxic,
his-
Jamie.
I think he just needs to be in his like go era, and then
Yeah.
he'll come around.
Because literally Max is like on that trajectory where Max
Uh-huh.
is starting to come back around to likable.
Yep, I agree.
That's just the way of the world. That's the way it works.
That's at least the way of F1.
I will tell you, in Oscar land, we are
Mm.
just fine. He is
That's fair. That's
pure,
fair.
and we love him the way that he is.
I'm sorry, but I hate to tell you, Oscar is going to become the next Nico Rosberg. And he's the worst one of them all.
I think
Whoa,
you're wrong,
that
Grace.
just got so real.
I think you're wrong.
I think Oscar's gonna become the next Lewis Hamilton.
And Lando will be the next Nico Rosberg. That actually tracks a lot more. Because I have to say, like, Nico's the biggest whinger. He might be truly the biggest whinger. He's such a big whiner that he was like, after I win, I'm done. I'm done.
I didn't follow him. I can't speak to that. But
Him
I
and Lewis had like this huge championship fight between the two of them. They were both at Mercedes. Lewis had won it, and
And they had been
Rosberg
childhood
was like,
friends, and then they completely fell out. Like, don't talk to each other still today.
oh my
Fell out.
gosh,
I think
the
they talked to each
drama.
other today.
They might exchange pleasantries of
Yeah,
saying,
but it's
hello
like they're
as they
not
pass through that
friends in the
age.
same way. Yes. They
Yes.
ruined their friendship, and then as he won the world championship and retired.
Oh my gosh. Boom. Just like
Yup.
that. I will
Yup.
say, I'm not saying that I feel like Grace started coming around to Lando, and then I was like, oh, okay, maybe he's not as bad. But I definitely I didn't like him at first in Drive to Survive either. So I'm not saying
I think you just have to watch his McLaren videos with Carlos, because Carlos
That's-
does make him extremely likable.
I will
That's the
say
downside.
Oscar's
About
making him
Carlos.
likable.
I know. Okay, here's my other thing with between Oscar and Lando. Some of their like PR videos that they do with McLaren, I just watch Lando. I'm like, why are you so sassy? I think like Lando is just the sassiest person, especially juxtaposed next to Oscar. So I don't know if it's making him look even more sassy because Oscar is just like so even keeled. But there are some videos where I was like, Lando, you're just not making yourself look very likable in these
Well,
videos, the way you're
I
reacting.
do think the like Oscar Lando of it all is like, Oscar's down here. He's mellow. Everyone loves Oscar's personality because he's like, I'm very chill. Everything's just, I'm just happy to be here.
He's a
And
mellow
Lando's
little
like,
cat.
you put coffee on my ice cream.
I don't like fish.
Don't put
He's
sushi on
whiny.
the table.
He is
And so
whiny.
I feel like, especially like, I think that Carlos amps up that. Like,
Yeah.
Carlos is like pushing the boundary and being like,
Mhm.
what if you touched a fish?
Yes.
And I think
know.
that Danny also like amps that a little bit.
Uh-huh.
But Oscar is truly just out here being like, have you seen this ridiculous
Yeah.
child?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, like Carlos played into it.
Yeah.
He knew how to work with it. And I think Oscar, I don't know if
And that's how
he's
you
super
know
great.
Carlos is going to be a great dad.
Oh.
Cut that out. Just kidding.
Well, Jamie, you missed it where in a previous podcast, maybe you listened, but I think so Oscar and Lando are end game. Like maybe Carlos was the first love, but like these teammates are end game. They actually are.
They're in love. They're having children
Personality?
together.
I think Lando would
Personality or
say.
track?
I
Like,
think Lando like loves that Oscar is like opposite of him, and he's like, this is actually my favorite.
I think
oh my gosh.
Grace is
I
like-
think that
I'm shook. I'm sorry.
Oscar
There's
and
just nothing that
Lando
compares to the
are
early
the people.
Carlando.
I think Oscar and Lando are the people that the fans think are going to be endgame, but they
No.
actually just like fight and break up and get back together and fight and break up and get back together. And the
There's
real
no
endgame
fighting.
is Charles and Pierre, but it's quietly in the background and nobody
No,
realizes.
Carlando all the way. I'm sorry. It has to be Carlando.
And then Carlando is
He was the first
what the
love.
diehard fans want to be endgame.
I want Carlos to go back to McLaren, but I just worry for like, where can Oscar go?
I don't think that either, though.
Red Bull was, I think, talking about Oscar.
I think
Along
they
with-
should.
They were talking
Maybe.
about George Russell too this weekend. I'm just like, they're all over the place.
George Russell's just not their style.
Red Bull has. I don't know how Red Bull
Yeah,
has
it's true.
imploded into a mess so quickly.
Yeah. When
In
you're
the past
talking
6
about
months.
bringing George over, you know you've made a wrong.
I think they did that. I think they did that to really push Toto's button, and I think it did hit a spot. But
Honestly, they should get
I think so.
Fernando.
The Red Bull.
you're just always throwing Fernando.
Yeah,
out
Actually-
you really
mix.
are.
Is there
Wait.
something like doesn't Fernando I actually think that Honda will never work with Fernando again, and that is one of the reasons why he cannot go to Red Bull.
No,
Yes.
is
Honda
it-
is going to Aston Martin, Grace.
Well, then I don't know what happened there.
You know
But
what I say?
I swear, there's like rumors because
Uneducated.
No.
The rumors.
There are rumors because Fernando was at McLaren when Honda was their partner, and he said some horrible things about Honda. So then there were rumors that like he could never be able to work with Honda again.
He was fiery. Yes.
I think he's probably said he never will work with Honda again, but that was like 8 years ago.
I
and
think
so now
he's
it's
probably
like-
Till
said he would
now.
never work with all of the engine suppliers ever again.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh my
Aw.
gosh. To bring it back to in-game teammates,
Yes.
Yuki Pierre. That is
Oh,
all time for
yes.
me.
Yes.
Shelly has other thoughts.
Max and Danny.
Did you
No.
see
Max
Pierre
and Danny,
in-
legends.
Yeah.
I mean, especially
Literally.
this weekend, right?
But
Yeah.
He
Pierre's
thanks to
post from
Daniel.
Singapore was him and Yuki in the first picture.
I do like that.
Pierre and
That
Luke,
was
Pierre
sweet.
and Yuki are just those guys. I love, like, you could tell Yuki got, I think, did he even cry? I don't know. But when they stopped being teammates, I think there were some deep emotions.
I don't think I saw him cry.
Who
they're
saw the
definitely-
pictures of Yuki like in commercial?
Mm-mm.
He flies like the rest of us.
That's amazing. Maybe we'll catch him on the next flight into
Mm,
Austin.
yes.
We're just booking tickets into Austin left and right. Do we know anyone that's going?
Should be us.
I
I
know.
wish.
It
I
should
had
be.
taken that weekend off work, but then I was like, I'm taking too much vacation this year. So then I put it back on like a ding dong.
Do we have any things from the race we want to discuss? We're in the deep lore, F1
There-
lore these days.
The Carlos crash in quali.
Okay, you know what's
Mm.
crazy to me is even after that crash, has anyone seen the like Destructors Championship recently? So sorry,
Is this-
Anne.
Is it still Checo and Logan?
Yes.
What
And
happened
Carlos
there?
doesn't even break the top 10.
That doesn't surprise me.
Whoa.
When was the last time Carlos crashed? It was honestly shocking. I thought it
In
was
quali.
Charles. I literally thought it was Charles. Sorry, Shelly.
No, but he crashed in the last race, James. I don't know if you know that.
Carlos
Oh,
did.
yeah, he did have that
right at
big
the
crash with
end, right?
Checo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait,
So the
okay,
last
that's
race,
what I'm thinking of. Was that the one where you went whoop and turned into him? Or at
They
least
did
that's what
not.
it looked like.
you need to
That's-
listen to the podcast episode.
I understand. but
She's
it
getting
looks-
triggered.
Carlos was following the racing line, and he thought that Checo was going to move for him a little bit, and neither one moved, and they.
When do we ever think that someone's gonna move for us? I'm sorry.
Well, if you're ahead, you do usually.
I think officially it was said that both were following their line and there's a soft drifting that occurred and they fell into each other.
Yes.
So
It was a crazy
Yes.
optical
It was
illusion, though.
crazy.
It
Yes.
literally looked like this. Whoop! Like,
because to be fair to Carlos, that's how they normally follow that racing line.
But also, they did
he-
not. They did not. They like went and reviewed
watched
the.
his hands.
Yeah, and they
And
said
it's
there
like,
were no movements until the cars touched.
That's wild. Oh my gosh. That's okay. Well,
And
soft drift.
Anne's face says she doesn't believe me, but
No,
the
no, you're right,
FIA
you're right.
believes
review the
me.
footage. Roll the tapes.
I will
Roll the
say-
I
tape.
was thinking about something else, Grace.
Last week Anne did her little like mini pod and was pretty fair. You know, I think we were
Thank you.
assuming that you guys would be fighting, but you guys are both pretty fair. And I
I
think
feel like, yeah, we've both been very fair about this situation.
it was
Which also both Checo and Carlos have been very fair about the situation too.
Yes.
They have,
Yeah.
yeah.
That is ultimately the important part. But I really thought after those 2 crashes, Carlos would be like at least cracking the top 10. He's not.
It's crazy. Okay, it's also crazy
Poor
how
boy.
there has still not been a safety car for like
Yes.
7 races.
Okay.
Don't
What do
jinx
we?
it.
I
Since
feel like we didn't talk
Montreal.
about that since Montreal. Is that
Wow.
us?
That's
That's
us.
you, baby.
That was a terrible, like, so many
We
people
jinxed
DNF'd.
it.
I hated
Yeah, we
it.
really
Wait,
did.
I hated it.
What happened? Oh, it was a virtual safety car at the end?
Yes. And then
Mhm.
Max was mad about that
Why?
because he thought it should be a full safety car for safety,
Oh.
which
see,
I think was
see.
probably fair. Also,
For
wait,
safety
okay.
and points.
Speaking of this week,
Yes.
Carlos crashing and then strutting across a live track to pick up a $25,000 fine. Chef's kiss.
What is happening? Is he?
Incredible.
I saw the shot and I knew Grace is gonna eat this up. How did they get this shot? The
Grace had put in the
sweat.
group chat that like she had to stop watching quality and go do something, and Shelly just wrote, "Grace, there's a great slow-mo video waiting for you when you watch."
I think I said tasty.
Yeah.
And it was.
And
Even
it
I was
was.
like, how did they get this shot of Carlos? And it's everywhere.
Incredible. In the words of Grace, incredible.
Over under on it being used in the Drive to Survive teaser trailer.
Oh yeah.
Oh, please.
They were there
Must.
this weekend too, so
He ate.
Also, over under on the Checo Carlos crash being used in the teaser trailer.
yeah.
Mm,
Yep,
There's a
that'll
lot of
be
good
it.
content there.
yeah. And so where are we at in constructors points and world championship points? Do we know?
McLaren is leading constructors,
Amazing.
and it's what, 52 between Max and Lando.
Yeah,
When
it'll
was
be a
the-
bit of a slog for Lando.
He needs
When-
some help of Max getting some bad results.
Okay. Yeah, when was the last time Max even won a race?
Forever, babes.
It's kind of
Montreal.
crazy to
No,
me.
it was in Montreal, right? No,
He
it
won Montreal.
was.
And in hindsight, I'm now like, we went to the most boring race of the season where Max won. And almost
And-
every other race, different drivers have won.
Yeah, it's been fun. I guess that makes
We
sense.
saw Max win in Hungary and we saw him win in Montreal.
Yeah,
We're
right.
cursed.
Or
But we got to see
Ricciardo.
Danny Ricciardo race in Hungary for was that his second or first race back? I can't remember.
Just first.
First race back. And we saw
Yeah.
him physically with our eyes, not just
I
on the
saw
racetrack.
him in Montreal and I went back to my video and felt the need to repost it. And just
Ooh.
like goodbye, Danny. Like memoriam, basically. I didn't do it, but I was close to.
But she might still.
Shelly's
might
gonna
still.
plan
Anne was there.
a whole memorial service for Danny's racing career.
I will be there.
For his career. You have to add the
Tell me
last
when.
sentence. Career.
I added career.
Racing career. Let's be honest. This boy still has a career ahead of him.
Yeah, he
It's-
might do more racing.
I'd go to an Indy race with Danny Ricciardo.
I love
I'd
that
go
you're like,
to a
that's
I'm
where
gonna
he's
say,
NASCAR
going.
race.
If you
let's
didn't
be
watch the
honest.
post-race show, Will Buxton and James Hinchcliffe were already lobbying to get Danny
James-
to come to IndyCar.
James has been lobbying for that for a while.
What about
Oh yeah, since the end of
NASCAR?
the McLaren stint.
I feel
We
like
could go to a
NASCAR-
lot of NASCAR races.
I cannot.
They're
I
all over the
actually
place.
physically cannot.
I
have a friend
cannot.
trying to get us to go to one in Vegas next month. And I was like, you know what? The only, not that I have a memory of NASCAR, but a tangential memory of NASCAR is through my friend who went with her husband and she fell asleep at a NASCAR race.
They weren't going fast enough.
That's I just find that absolutely hysterical that she
I
fell
could go to
asleep.
I could go to an IndyCar race. I could go to a MotoGP. I could go to Le Mans.
I could go to Formula E.
Formula E, yes.
Hell yeah.
When's
F1
our next
Academy.
F1 Academy race. Is
But
there one in Austin?
Not NASCAR.
There is.
Okay.
And F1 Academy, and he's a new team principal. It's
For
wrong,
which
but
team?
it's funny.
And guess
Wrong,
what?
but it's funny. Take away my feminism card.
If you guys find yourself at an indie race, you might see a familiar face by the name of Logan Sargent
I
in a couple
know.
years.
Yeah.
A couple
Crazy.
years.
That's
Shy.
No, they said the seats are taken for 2025, so they're
Uh-oh.
just testing him, but
I
The
don't think
NASCAR
all of the
make
seats
room
have
for
been
Danny.
confirmed for 25.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we have no seats. JK, here's the
here,
seat.
Danny, here's an open seat for you.
Here,
Logan gets
Danny.
squeezed out again.
Here's a horse.
Logan
drawn-
squeezed out.
Poor
Okay,
Logan.
let's talk quickly about the Logan girlies who so quickly turned into Colapinto girlies, because I have seen multiple people talk about how they were so mad about Logan leaving and then are like,
They
Mhm.
but
hated
actually
James
I love
Vowles.
Colapinto. And you're like,
And he's doing well. Hmm. Yep.
Mhm.
he can call me anytime. We should try to get him on the podcast. He has no media manager.
That's great.
If we sent him a DM, he definitely would be on.
Do it, Shell.
Bring him in.
Grace, you've been working on Duolingo, right? You can get maybe caught up
Send a
on
little
your.
message in Spanish.
Yep.
I have access to we have
Jamie's like, I speak more Spanish than Grace.
I have some access. I have some friends, some people that could help me with
We
translations.
need that. Yeah. No.
I love
like
it.
Anything else this weekend? Lando got his third win. That I feel like I love seeing him and Oscar kind of trade off, and that's what I'm here
You're
for.
ready for the next Oscar
Yeah,
win.
basically, I'm like, okay, it's Oscar's turn now, Lando. You're gonna choke on this one, and you're gonna mess up, and Lando or Oscar's gonna pick up the pieces. And Charles, him and Ferrari, they placed pretty low this weekend, so they got, I think, 4th and 5th. Is that right?
No,
5th and 6th?
I
4th
think
and
they got 5th
6th?
and 6th.
Okay, 5th and 6th.
Yeah.
I saw something, Anne, about Checo not really passing anyone this race after, I mean, Franco took his spot. So that was interesting. No comments? Okay.
No one can pass anyone in
It's-
Singapore. That's the comment.
I saw plenty of passes.
There's a reason why
Uh,
we haven't been talking about this race, because it was boring.
It was not boring. There was plenty of passing. This is one of my favorite races, so I will not take the
Are you
slander.
slander.
serious?
I'm serious.
I've
Is
heard
this-
both.
There was a
Did-
20-second
was
gap
both-
between Max and Lando, and then a 15-second gap between Max and whoever
But there
was
were
in
plenty of
third.
spots that were
Oscar.
very close in the midfield.
Mhm.
Like
Boring
Checo,
race.
Colapinto, and was it
Nico.
Brain? Yeah,
Nico.
thank you. I
Thank you.
almost like I wanted to say the name of a doctor that I work with that I was like,
Okay.
it's not them.
Can't say
Um,
that.
Okay, to me it was a boring race because they would be
She's just
within
mad because
like
Checo's not doing well.
0.7 seconds, but you just know, oh, this car doesn't have new enough tires. They're not going to be able to get past, and so they just like stick behind each other for forever.
They
and
were
nothing
passing.
happens.
There was
I saw it.
passing happening
I
up till
saw
the very
passing.
end. And it was like passing throughout the whole race because some people pitted for tires so early and some people so late. You're wrong about this.
Okay, speaking of passing, this was one of the radio messages that I can't remember who commented on it, but the engineer to George was saying that like Charles was maybe going to be interacting with him before the end of the
Yes.
race. And then the commentators were like, well, that's not the right thing to say. It
It's
was-
wheel-to-wheel racing.
Yeah. What is happening?
I love George, and he was like, can I get some encouragement, please?
That
He
was
is
so
growing
funny.
on me.
Oh gosh.
Whoa.
I can
Uh,
honestly, Shelly, don't take this the wrong way, but I can really see you as a Mercedes girl.
I could too.
Mm-hmm.
How
I'm sorry. It's
am-
not
You
that's
like
That's
the
not an
finer
insult.
things.
No, as much as
Not an
I
insult.
have issues with Ferrari, I can't give that up. I don't like McLaren.
Wait, are you gonna stay a Ferrari girly? I thought you were becoming a McLaren girly.
I'm not. I'm sadly, I have too much beef with Zach. I just can't deal with him. So I've never, even when Danny was there and I was hardcore Danny at that time, I'm like, I don't like McLaren. I like Danny. And now
Yeah.
it's like, I like Oscar, occasionally Lando, but I don't like McLaren. And
I
my
think when
team
we
is
strip
Spark.
you down to your essence, though, you're a Mercedes
Mercedes.
girly.
I actually see that.
I see it. I just like in your, the fashion. Like
The
she's like
aura.
clean
The
girl,
aura.
like
Yeah, if we're going on
a little
auras.
bit of old money, like a
Well,
little like
Okay.
old money. I will say if Kimmy does
she's very
well,
demure.
that'll be a good watch. I am here for Kimmy actually, so we'll have to
She's
give some
opening the
time.
door.
I am
Nothing's off the
gateway.
table.
I see Jamie. Now I'm just like, I have this in my
Oh
mind.
yeah, let's do it.
I see Jamie, like, I feel you're a McLaren girly.
Hmm.
Even
could
though
s-
Danny has left, I just like, it's like, she's like young, she's hip, she's like a little bit boho, like,
I
she's
like
like,
that.
she has the youth with her. She, like, they're always like doing like experimental videos and
Ooh,
like,
yeah. I could see that.
that's,
Okay. I do have it's the only official merch I have is a McLaren shirt.
yes.
Danny got my Danny Rick 3 on the back. I could see that.
Stop.
Oh, but like
But
I
you
can
like,
see you
you
in a
take
Mercedes
Ferrari and you make
hat.
it you, which is like
Yeah.
beautiful. Ferrari wishes they had what you were selling, but they're not. Ferrari's like a little bit cheaper.
Ooh. I feel like I know what you're gonna say for Anne.
What are you gonna say? Because I was like, I have like an inkling, but I'm not sure I'm like nailing it down.
I was gonna say Red Bull.
Yeah, I was gonna too. It's like that sport. It's like the girls that you meet when you are at races who are Red Bull fans. Like they're a little like, I'll take you out if you don't like Max. That's
I
what she's
feel like
giving.
That's what you think of me.
No, but it's just like the essence of it. You're like a little like, I like the engines. Because Red Bull's not giving you like a beautiful driver to be like, I'm just here for the boys.
yeah, you're like, yes.
You're
yeah,
getting points or you're out.
Yeah.
yeah. We're serious around
She's
here.
a sports girl.
Yeah,
That's true.
exactly.
You're literally a sports
Yes.
girl. So like, of course, Red Bull's your team.
Yeah, it
Mm.
really works.
All right, Jamie, you have to get Grace.
Okay. What if
have
I
an
said
idea.
Williams?
I was
She
literally gonna
loves
say
that.
I am
She
a
loves
Williams
that.
girly.
Yes, Williams.
Yeah,
Free
that's
spirit.
mhm.
You know Williams, that
Here for the
stodgy old British
vibes.
team.
It was women run, so we have that going for it. I feel like it's
The
like
feminism coming back into my body.
yeah, I feel like Williams is
Williams wishes they had my style. They should hire me to help them figure out how to make their team style.
that's true. I feel like they have
Shelly's laughing, but I'm serious.
yeah, because yes. I feel like their drive well, I guess I'm like thinking of Alex and I'm like, I love their drivers. They're
I think
about to
Alex
get
does help bring that energy.
yes.
I need to embrace it more.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like they're not like overly serious, you know? Like I feel
I
like
think keep going.
yeah. I just enjoy the temperament, the energy. It feels like there's room for growth, input. Mhm.
I think that to encourage that like vibe, they should, some teams are really like, you have to wear the team kit to the racetrack and all over during media time. And then some of them are like, wear whatever you want in, it's all good. Williams needs to embrace that more with like Alex and their drivers to be like, wear your own clothes in, like really like
Mhm.
make it feel relaxed. Because Ferrari always makes Charles and Carlos wear their red Ferrari stuff all the
Mhm.
time. They're always in team kit.
Mhm.
It's like the rare photo you see them out in their own clothes.
Mhm.
And that's why you're not a Ferrari girl, Shelly. You're a Mercedes girl because those boys walk in and they look like someone styled them.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I know. There's just something about like the black Ferrari hat with the bright symbol. That just for some reason fits you.
I will never leave Charles.
Well,
I
Charles
didn't say you
can
had to
come to
leave
you.
Charles. I'm just
Yeah.
saying you have the fashion sensibilities of Mercedes.
Mm-hmm. Especially, I'm thinking just team, not
Yeah.
like driver
Not
has some to
driver.
do with it, but more team essence.
Team Essence, I think Toto, and I'm like, no, thanks. No thanks, Toto. Bye.
No, thank-
Bye. I guess it's fine. It's fine.
Sorry, I don't make the rules.
The rules make
You
me.
just tell them how it is.
Okay, thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
I'm
Thanks
so
for
glad you could
coming.
join us again, Jamie.
Me too.
We're on
And
break and
yeah,
be
we'll
back.
see you at Austin in
Yeah.
like a month. But
All right.
like, comment, subscribe, tell all your friends about the pod.
Thanks.
And yeah, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.